Good evening once again. Welcome to Easy8's online painting club. My name's Danny. It says it right down here at the bottom of the screen. I hope you're all doing really well. It's been a week since we last spoke and since we last all got together to paint our bits and pieces. And between now and the last show that we've had quite a few new subscribers to the YouTube channel, to the Facebook page, more people on Instagram, and it's been really good and it just generally inspiring and motivating for me to kind of carry on and do what I do here. So thanks if you're new. Thank you very much for kind of coming along and seeing what we're all about. If you don't know what we're all about, then Easy8 Online Painting Club is merely set up to help inspire you and motivate you to paint through your miniatures collection. So whatever you collect, it doesn't really matter what you paint at all. If you collect Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, anything like that, Blood Bowl, Bolt Action, or any kind of miniatures, or even just any kind of painting, and you just find the need to have a bit of motivation, that's exactly what we're here for on this show. Live stream every Friday evening from 7 till 9 p.m. So we'll always be here. We have our regular viewers, as always, very timely, Adrian Dean. Good evening, Easy8. Nice to see you again, Adrian. Thanks for coming along. If you are new, we do have our regular viewers, and it's really nice to see. I'm usually accompanied by another gentleman called Kyle, who unfortunately will not be here this evening with us. He might be here for the second half, because we're going to be here for 2 hours. Something quite important for him came up at last minute, and he gave me a call yesterday. He said, I'm really sorry that I probably won't be able to make it there, but he does aim to be here for around about 8 o'clock. So otherwise it's just going to be you and me here this evening. I'd love to know what you're painting or what your projects are, be it if you're painting on canvas or you're just creating something, or if you are just trying to get through that massive horde of grey miniatures that you don't want to be a grey miniature set anymore. Then let us know. Get involved in the live chat. It's really chatty in there, because it's not just me, it's the community, and that's exactly what this channel is up for. So this week, what we're talking about, weathering. I love weathering. It's a really exciting topic to talk about, and it's something that I think is quite overlooked, especially if you're playing or collecting things that are a bit more fantasy style. So things like Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, the old classic Warhammer fantasy, things like that. They tend to get a little bit of overlooked. More viewers coming in. Oi from Jeff Lacey. That's my dad. Hi Dad, nice to see you again. And Dave Lester, evening all. Been a couple of weeks since we've seen you, but I recognise your names. Nice. Thanks for coming along. Cheers. So yeah, weathering. You don't have to just be doing weathering this evening. You could be doing whatever you want to. It's just nice to have a topic to talk about, right? So weathering is what is weathering? Does anybody else do it? I never used to do it up until I started collecting Second World War armor miniatures. So I love things like tanks from the Second World War. I don't know what it is about tanks, and I've said it a million times. If you watch this show regularly, you've heard me say it. I love tanks. I just think it's about the design and the shape and things like that. I don't like what they do. Obviously, that's really bad. But when I started collecting various different tanks, I started learning a lot about them. I used a lot of reference photos, and I realized how mucky everything really can get and how grimy, even though the crews looked after them a lot. I started to realize that actually weathering is a really big aspect of miniature painting. More viewers coming in. Luke Gullier, hope everyone is well, and you Luke, nice of you to join us again. Thanks for coming along. So yeah, I started to collect a lot of bolt action, which is 28mm tanks. I don't play the game, I just really like the models. Someone bought me a load, I bought a few more, and I just really enjoyed it. And it's not just weathering, it's about the staining process as well. It's about pin lining, making the actual paint job look more attractive, and it pops out a little bit. And then there's the kind of extra layer on top. Now, if you haven't really done anything with weathering before, but you've done things like basing on some of your miniatures, then that's a very similar thing, because you might be doing some sort of effects on the ground, like mud or dust that might be accumulated on cloaks or legs and things like that of your miniatures, or you might have done something like snow or water effects. In a way, that all kind of comes under this big umbrella, if you like, of weathering. I've not done too much in the realms of what you can do with weathering. I've just done things like rust and grime and streaking effects like that. I do have a massive collection because I'm an impulse buyer, and I'm sure we all are as well. I've just got this massive collection of weathering effects, and I'm going to show them all with you right now. I've just been prepping some of my models to do today, so I'm just going to move this bad boy out. There we are, and I can talk a little bit about all the different things that I've got. So what are weathering products? What can you do? It doesn't really matter. It's all about what it is that you're doing to the miniature to give that effect. It doesn't really matter what product you're using. So it could be a simple paint. This is an oil-based paint from Winsor Newton. I used these a little while ago, just briefly with Kyle when we were talking about staining golds and things like that, and how to make them look more burnished. Again, it's a type of weathering because metal tarnishes over time, right? We can use pigments, which is like a powder. And this is more like dust effects that you might put on the bottoms of tanks if they're in maybe dusty or dirty environments. And then there's things like enamel pin washes and things. And we'll have a look at these closely in just a second. And these are all about adding those finer details. What I'm going to be doing today, if you watched us last week, you'll remember that I painted up a little 1/100th miniature Matilda 2 tank. I absolutely love it. I adore it. I think it's wonderful. It really is tiny. I've also got a Sherman Firefly, which I've just had the turret off just a minute ago because I've just been varnishing him ready to go with a bit of staining. And just earlier on in the week as well, I also made up an M3 Lee, which is a really, really nice model, and they've got some different colours on them as well. I wanted to get some lighter colours in because it's a bit easier to see under the lights and under the camera to see what I'm doing, and I'm just going to take you through some of the effects as I do one or two of these tanks up. Maybe I'll do all of them, who knows, and just see where we go with it. And if you've got any questions, pop them in the live chat. Of course, if you are new or you have forgotten and you want to catch us over at any one of our other social platforms, we are also on Facebook, we are also on Instagram, and we are obviously here on YouTube. And just at the bottom of the screen there, you should be able to see some details telling you how to get to those different places. We do also have Twitter, and we do also have Twitch, but they're not really used at the moment. Twitch didn't work out for me a little while ago. I'm waiting for this community and this channel to grow before I really pursue those, because at the moment this is all off of money out of my own pocket and time out of my own schedule to kind of make this happen. So until it grows, I'm not going to be pursuing those. But those three there, which way? That way. There it is where you can find us regularly. I'm always on Instagram, always on Facebook, and if you ask questions or are popping little photos up there all the time, I love to see them and I often respond immediately. So do get in contact with us if you are new. If you are new, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, like and follow us on Facebook and on Instagram, because every little bit helps and it helps this channel grow. Brilliant. So let us know what you're working on. I'd love to see or hear what about your projects. I know that a few of you have been having projects that have been going on for a little while now, and I'm really excited to find out what's going on there. Of course, I normally let Kyle talk about that, but he's not here at the moment, so I did it for him. Don't tell him. Shh. Gonna take you over to the workbench to see what's happening over here. Here we go. So I've got here just a couple of little tanks. So I've got my little Matilda 2 in 1/100 scale. This is a Zvezda model, as is this one here. We were looking at these just the other week. And I've also got my Sherman Firefly, which is Flames of War, I believe. Flames of War is from the game Tanks, which is a little side game from Flames of War, where it just kind of focuses on just the armor, and I just love them. I think they're really fun. I've got a massive collection of little tanks now, and they take up just a kind of tiny little corner on my desk. So it's a great kind of sub hobby to get into, if you like. Just before I started prepping up the studio for today, I had another little delivery from my dad, who for some reason can't help himself. I should imagine, maybe he's bored in the UK lockdown we got here, and maybe he misses me. I miss you too, man. But he's bought me a few more tanks. So to add to my massive collection, I've got a classic Stug 3, which is a lovely little tank, obviously based off of the Panzer III chassis, little assault gun model here. So it hasn't got a turret, it's just got this casemate on the top. I love the Panzer IVs, the Panzer IIIs, and the Stugs. I think they're just wonderful tanks. And I've also got a couple of Stuarts. It's a really cute tank. It's tiny. It is the precursor, if you like, to the Sherman and the Lee. It's very, very light, and it's a really nice tank. The crews used to call it a honey tank. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting those ones out to have a play. I've obviously got my Soviet ones that we were talking about last week, but what why I'm talking about this now, and I'm quickly going off topic, is because last week I made an error, and I would really like to clarify and apologise. So, I've also got this model. Thanks, Dad. This is the Ferdinand. Now, you all remember me last week talking about, get my arm into shot here, this beast of a tank. This is the German Maus. This is huge. It is the largest thing that was ever made for fighting in the Second World War. It's a German fantasy construct, really. This thing weighed about 180 tons. The turret itself weighed the same as a German Tiger 1. It's a ridiculous concept, and it was one of Hitler's fantasies because he was really in the realms of if it's big, it's going to be good. And unfortunately, it generally wasn't true. For every one of these that they made, they should have been pulling out 10 Panthers, for example, you know. Anyway, I said last week that this machine saw combat, and I clearly had my words up inside my head. I was very, very wrong. I know that this wasn't used in combat. Actually, what happened with this beast of a tank is that they made two prototypes. They called them V1 and V2. V1 was a mock-up prototype made of wood, which Hitler came and inspected, and at the time, it didn't have a turret. And just as they were kind of finishing that one, they were also working on V2, and that was a big full-on tank, and it had a turret for it. A little while, very short while after it being kind of made and presented to Hitler and the Wehrmacht, the Soviets invaded the area where they were being built, so the Germans destroyed them. Well, they destroyed V2, which was the metal one. By that time, they had made V1 out of metal. It still didn't have its turret, and they abandoned it and they left it. When the Soviets took over, they found it, was like, oh, what is this huge, sad state of affairs? And they took it away to examine it. And what they did is they took the turret from V2, stuck it on V1, and it now resides in a museum. There are some misleading stories out there saying that it did see combat. It didn't. It's quite easy, I suppose, to see why those stories came about. But anyway, this is a huge concept tank that never saw fighting. It's just so huge, it never would have done an awful lot. And being at 180, near 200 tons, because Hitler wanted to put a bigger gun in it, which would have taken it up an extra 20 tons roughly, it would never have been able to use most European roads or bridges. So, and also from the air, it's a great big bomb target. So, what was I thinking about when I said that this one saw combat? Well, I get very nervous when I'm in these shows, and sometimes I don't think straight. What I was thinking about was this bad boy. This is the Ferdinand. It was later renamed as the Elephant, and I mentioned that as a name last week, and I obviously just got the two confused. What this is a way of using surplus hulls that they had made. When the Tiger 1 was being created, it was a race between Ferdinand Porsche, and a gentleman called Henschel. They were both fighting, basically, racing to see if they could get their own designs out. And in the end, the Henschel Tiger was the one that they went with, because the Porsche one had like an electric assisted engine, amongst other problems that it had. The engine was unreliable, and they also didn't have an awful lot of copper by that stage in the war, so to create large engines they didn't really have it. Anyway, by the times that they'd gone with the Henschel version of the Tiger 1, they had 100 hulls without the turrets, just 100 hulls of the Porsche variant Tiger. The turrets were exactly the same as what we see on the classic Tiger. So they made 10 with turrets. 9 of them never saw combat at all. They were just kind of divvied out for training, but one was used by an SS unit as a command tank for the additional 90 or so tanks that they made, and they basically stuck this casemate on the top. It went out for a little while, called the Ferdinand in honor of Ferdinand Porsche, and then when they got reallocated on the battlefield, they were then called the Elephant. So that's what I was thinking of when I mentioned the Maus last week. I went a little bit off topic from weathering there, but I just feel that occasionally it's worth clarifying that I did know where I went wrong, and it's really important in case you're learning something here. But it's good to get things wrong, because when I correct it, you might remember it a bit more. As I've been yabbering on, we've got a few other comments going into the chat here. Adrian says, with the release of the new Dark Angels Codex, I'm working on bringing my Deathwing and Ravenwing up to speed. Excellent news. You've put a couple of photos already on our Facebook page of your Dark Angel's Force, because you got the Indomitus box set, and it's looking pretty mega. And of course, you've done the Fortress of Redemption, so it's a huge force. Yeah, be looking forward to seeing that. Stafford Causey, hello everyone. Welcome to the show, Stafford. I remember you back in the very, very first few episodes. It's nice to see you along. Thank you very much for coming along. Adrian goes on to say, the Mouse is still the biggest tank built. It's bigger than the current Challenger tank. Yeah, it's enormous. It's absolutely huge. Of course, we do, if you know a little bit about the Second World War, you'll know that that isn't as big as they wanted to go, because there is the Ratter, which is just stupid. It would have never have driven. It was supposed to go like 40 kilometers an hour, but it was a fancy tank. It was just, yeah, let's not even talk about it, because it was just stupid. However, I did I found out just earlier on that there is another tank that they were designing, that they built a hull for, and it was called the E100 Mega Tank, which is basically a King Tiger on steroids. I'd never heard of that before, and it's really, really interesting. I don't know an awful lot about it, so I'm not going to go on and yabber on for ages about it, but you should definitely, if you get some time, go out on YouTube or on Google and just type in, you know, the E100, I think it was called. It's immense. It's huge. Anyway, so let me get my little piece of paper out here so it's a bit brighter and we can see what's going on. I've got this enormous collection of tanks now. It's just insane. I'll show them all to you in a bit, but we want to get on with weathering. So what have I got that is weathering stuff? I have probably let's start from the ground up. Where would I go with when I'm starting to create all the weathering effects, etc., for my tanks beyond the initial paint job, if you like? So I have these. Oh, and this one here. These are washes. This is exactly what you would expect from GW's wash range, or shade range they call it. You can see why I always confuse it with wash, is because that they are generally known as washes, and they are there for accentuating all the recesses and lines and details that are on your models. Generally, it's really important, especially if you've got models that are this tiny. They've got quite a lot of detail on them, even for a 15mm or 1/100th scale model. Got a lot of detail on them, so it's really worth doing something as in terms of a shade or a wash with them. Now, there are different ways of applying this, and we spoke about shades as a whole separate episode some months, probably about a month ago now, where there are different ways of applying them. But these are designed to be a little bit more accurately or precisely applied. They are enamel, so you're going to need spirits to remove them or clean them or do anything with them. And you can use odorless thinner, which is basically like I suppose like an acrylic thinner is for acrylic paints. This is for spirits. If you try and mix over the two different types of products, you're not going to have anything. You'll probably make an uncomfortable mess on your model or whatever. And then of course there's always white spirit. They do the same, and I bought them when I was kind of learning and investigating, and you can see that I've used more spirit than I have thinner, because I thought that this one was better for cleaning and that this one is better for manipulating when it's on the model and doing things with. But actually, maybe it's just my level of experience, because I'm not a pro by any stretch. I don't notice an awful lot of difference. I prefer this one because it doesn't smell. We all know white spirit, it's got quite a smell to it, so make sure you're using it in a ventilated room. Even if this one doesn't smell, it might actually still have some kind of harmful fumes that you just can't smell because it's odorless. So just be aware of your environment if you're going to start using these. Also, because these are enamels, they do have quite strong smells as well. But the idea is that you would prep the surface that you're going to apply your washes to by applying a very, very thin layer of thinner or spirit to the surface, and then basically just getting a thin brush and just dropping it onto that area, be it around rivets or in creases that are like doors or hatches or things like that, and it will just run in there in what is known as capillary action or a capillary method or something. I struggle to say the word capillary, so I'm probably going to make a fool of myself tonight. And I've got different colours for different types of tank. So the standard German Panzer grey is this ever so slightly blue wash. They do need a really good shake because they've got like a particle or a particulate in them. So it's worth, as you're doing it, to keep on shaking them, or maybe put a little dollop in the upturned lid or in a little pallet rather than taking it out of the bottle straight away, because it all stinks pretty quickly. I've got a dark yellow wash for the German later colour vehicles in that kind of, it's called Dunkelgelb, which is dark yellow, but they're sort of desert colours if you like. And I've also got this dark brown one, which is by far my favourite, which is for anything that was green. So this could be for the American olive drab, and it could also be for the British dark bottle greens. Yeah, so that's those ones there. What I would do, no matter what model I'm painting, in what scale to what detail, I would make sure that the paintwork is as finished as I want it to be. I would probably apply decals if I'm going to do that at that stage, and then I would varnish it. I have learned that satin varnish is the best varnish to use if you're going to start applying any kind of weathering effects, be it washes or grimes, anything like that, because it ever so slightly smooths out the surface and it just is a little bit easier to control. Some proper old-time model enthusiasts will probably prefer gloss because, again, it's even smoother, and it makes it easier to kind of move around on the surface. So yeah, those are washes. And then I would probably think about doing things like grime and rust. I like to move on to grime next. There are so many different products out there. I could sit here and tell you until I'm blue in the face which one is the best one to get. You'll probably go buy something different, and then you'll end up finding out that actually you prefer another product. I use pretty much exclusively AK Interactive. I just find their range of products and the quality of their products second to none. There are numerous companies out there that do similar stuff and very, very different stuff, and I beg you to go and look for yourselves and find out what you find works for you. So this one here actually has a little picture on the side. I don't know if you can really pick that out. Actually, it comes out quite clear on the camera, doesn't it? The idea is that you would apply it in a mass or like a line at the top of their panel that you're going to be picking out. You kind of let it dry semi, so like within a couple of seconds perhaps, because it will kind of evaporate in a set. And then you can get another brush that is doused in spirit or odorless thinner. You don't want it too heavy, so dab it off on a paper towel, and then you would just wipe it down in one swift, controlled motion in the direction that you want the grime streaks to appear. And it is as simple as that. And as heavy as you apply the product, or as heavy as you wipe that area down with the spirit, will give you a differing effect. And you can mix it up with different types of streaking grime, different colours of streaking grime. I've got rust streaks, which I do in the same way, but obviously it kind of gives you a much more orangier effect, and I do this one first and I do rust over the top. And I've also got light rust, which is like a really, really bright rust colour, and I just kind of spot that one around all over the place. I've also got slimy grime dark is what this one's called, and you can see the effect here. This is for like mildew or kind of green mold, where something's been sitting in the weather outside perhaps. Probably really good for doing dioramas or buildings and things, but like I say, I'm an impulse buyer and I was like, oh, that'll be good. I've not even opened it, so yeah, but maybe perhaps sometime soon I'll do some scenery or something and I'll use this one on there. But this one, of course, you would probably want to focus on going upwards, because it would be like a creeping damp perhaps. There's no reason to say you can use it in any other way. I've also got fuel stains, just because I really wanted fuel stains, why not? And I've also got dark mud, because any sort of tank enthusiast will tell you that trying to create an effect on tank tracks and soil and the environment that they're in is a really difficult process, trying to create your own mud. I've had some success with this, and I've had some outright failures. AK Interactive also do massive tubs for dioramas or whatever of mud mix. I've not seen them firsthand, but I've seen them being used since I bought this, and I think that if you want to do like muddy tracks or dioramas, then that's probably more the product you want to go. This is for kind of like doing splashes perhaps at the side of your tank. Anyway, I've also got fuel stains, we've done that one. I've got a track wash, which I thought, because trying to make your own track effects is very, very difficult, I thought, this is the one substance that I need. It wasn't anything that I needed at all. What it is for the very largest scale models that you can buy, where the track links are all individual and they're metal, is that you would apply this stuff liberally to the metal tracks. It semi-corrodes the surface so that products adhere to them better. What a waste of money that was, because I don't have any models that have metal parts like that. Anyway, I've also got this pigment that I picked up because I wanted to have a go with it. I don't really use it, to be honest, but this is a dust pigment, so it's not a liquid at all. You're probably quite used to this, especially if you've seen a lot of the things that are being used in games such as 40k. This is the more common sort of product where they do dust effects on soldiers' legs or cloaks and apparel, things like that. You can apply it with a paintbrush and just kind of move it around, and then you can seal it with a varnish, or there's a pigment fixer, which is like an alcohol-based enamel fluid. When I've used these products, I found that this did quite a good job removing it, so perhaps I'm not very good at using this product or similar products yet, and I need a lot more practice. I'm not going to be using this one today. Anyway, that's just my range. I've also got a couple of other bits and pieces. I've got a chipping medium, which I'm sure is fairly obvious as to what that is. You would apply this generally through an airbrush. Different quantities, drying times, whatever, all have different effects on it. But then you would get another brush. Sorry, you would then get another colour, spray that colour all over the top. You would then get a wet brush, and you would start basically just washing and wiping away that top layer, and it gives you a chipped effect. I've had a lot of success with this, and I've had other jobs that have been kind of varying results, but nothing ever so poor, I would say. It does require a personal touch to use that one. And lastly, out of the bottle stuff I have here is from Ammo MIG, which is a white camo. This is a washable paint. I know that sounds ridiculous because in some ways all paints are washable, but this one you apply it, then with a wet brush you can move it around, and you can get some really cool looking effects with sort of the winter whitewash effect that you would see in Northern Europe and the Eastern Front in Second World War. I've got close to using this. I started another project because I've got a million projects and I haven't done it, so I'm actually going to do a feature on that sometime soon in the future. So the last product that we've got is something completely different, and I was asked a few weeks ago to bring this up, which is why we're talking about weathering today, is weathering pencils. Now these are like a pencil crayon, and they have like a paint lead, if you like. So the lead of them is almost like a wax crayon, but it is essentially a paint. You apply it on, and then you can manipulate it and do all sorts of effects with a wet brush. They are acrylic based, I think, so you can actually kind of manipulate them with water. I've had nothing but poor results with these, and I know that that is just me trying to use them and I'm not doing a good enough job. So I'm going to have a little play with these today and see if I can get better at them, because I've watched other people do it on videos and in front of my face, and the results are astonishing. They're really, really good. I picked up this rust set because it's the colours that I'm most likely going to use, and I thought I'd give them a go, and I've just really struggled with them. I'm hoping that I will be able to have better results as time goes on. So there we go. Weathering, that's all my products. I'm going to kind of get stuck into it now because I'm sure that we're all just want to crack on a little bit. I think that I'm going to get stuck on with my M3 Lee first, just because it's a lighter colour. Actually, no, I can't do that because I haven't primed him yet. I've primed my Sherman. Never mind. I was going to do the M3 Lee because it's a brighter colour and you might be able to see it a little bit better. I can zoom in a little bit on this one here. So if I just get my zoom control, I can. There we go. Look at that. So we can see it a little bit closer up. If you are struggling to see what I'm doing here, just let me know in that live chat and I will try to affect focus, zoom or brightness levels or anything like that. But it should be fairly easy to see. Now, what we can see on this model here, you can see there's a couple of little splash marks at the back end over here. That's because just as I was applying the satin varnish, I had a little bit of spit coming out of the end of the airbrush, but that will probably hide it once I go over with a matte later on, and I might even be able to cover it over with a little bit of grime effects. There's a lot of detail on this tiny little model. I love it. It's wonderful. But you can't really see an awful lot of it at the moment. It's a very dark looking tank. But also it just hasn't had those details picked out. So that's what we're going to do right now. So first things first, I'm going to be using enamels. So I like to use a metal dish. I don't know why I do the two. I just saw someone doing it once and thought perhaps that's a really good idea. So I think maybe it's a bit easier to clean, perhaps. I've got my metal palette here. I'm going to choose which colours I want to do. I'm not going to do any kind of streaking grime or anything like that right now, or any rust effects, but I'm going to use a wash. And out of these two colours here, I've got a dark yellow and I've got a dark brown for green vehicles. So that is the product that I'm going to be using here. Give it a really good shake. Oh, lots of talking because I'm by myself, so I've got a cup of tea. Wonderful. Okay, really good check. I want to get all that particle, all that kind of thick matter at the bottom, that sludge, kind of just reactivate it in the enamel mixture inside there. Make sure that the lid's on because it goes everywhere. It's not coming off whatever it touches. And then open it up. Now, on the inside they do have like that typical little papery wax paper insert that sometimes comes out. Sometimes it sticks to the top. Just get a little knife and lift it off. But sometimes it is loose, so just be careful where you're doing it. I always protect every surface I'm doing with a little bit of paper or something. Yeah, and you can see that it's quite a thick, sludgy, grimy mess in there. So it is quite smelly, so just be considerate of where you're applying this, or where it is you're painting. And you could take it directly out of the bottle, and then apply it to your miniature, but it does sort of settle. So I'm sticking a little bit just on the side of my palette, just over here. And if you wanted to, you could kind of water that down with some thinner if you want. Obviously water isn't going to clean this off, so I'm going to need a little bit of enamel cleaner. So pop that away, just over there. And I'm going to get a little bit of, I'm not going to use any white spirit today, I'm going to use odorless thinner, because the room I'm in, though ventilated, is quite small. So I have a little pipette, which just makes things a little bit easier when you're trying to control strong and potent stuff. Also, you know, if you're using a lot of it regularly, it doesn't come cheap. And when we're in a lockdown and a global crisis, I do try to keep my spending to a minimum. So I do try to control what I use. I always like to make sure that I've got a couple of pools aside. So I've got 1, 2 here. So I've got one to kind of clean off, and then one to use if I want to use it actually on the model itself. So I've got a clean one and a dirty one. There we go. Let's just get that in there. Yeah, it's much more pleasant to work with than white spirit. And when my white spirit's all gone, I don't know if I'll buy any more because the thinner does the same job. Okay, so now I've got one to clean my brush off in. Lovely. I always make sure that I've got water beside me, because once the thinner has done its job, or the cleaner has done its job, you want to get the cleaner out of your brush. And for this purpose, don't use your expensive brushes. There's no need right now. I've been using my new Raphael Kalinsky brush. It's dreamy, so dreamy. If you're ready for it, spend some money on your brush. Like, yeah, I've had really, really good results with mine. Okay, so I'm going to use my little Artificer, I'm struggling with my words again today, Artificer layer brush from Citadel. It is a little bit worn, but it does have a nice thin end on it at the moment. I've been using some brush cleaner and some brush restoring gel, like shape restoring gel. So it's going to do for the job that I'm working on today. I would like to also get a nice thin flat brush. Here it is, which is my Citadel base, my large base one. It's all about the base. Oh, I'm sorry, I won't say that again. And I'm just going to basically get a bit of thinner on the end of this brush here, piece of kitchen cloth, and just get the most of it off on there. So what I can do now is I'm going to just focus on an area. The best place to work on at the moment, I think, is probably down on the engine bay here. So I'm just going to wipe this thinner all over, and you can see that it's on there because it leaves a shiny surface, like it's ever so slightly damp. You don't want it soaking, you don't want it saturated, but you do want something on there. That's going to help draw that capillary action, and you'll see it do its job. So, oh no, stay there now. Stay, thank you. Now I'm going to get a bit of that wash colour on the end of my brush, and I'm just going to start dropping it into some of these little details here. And if I come down, you might be able to see it a bit easier because I think the focus is better down here. There. And what I've seen now is that line just drop in and it expanded. So it's really, really simple. And when you first start doing this, yeah, it feels a little bit time consuming, but stick with it. It doesn't take long for it to become a really speedy process, and it is really enjoyable because you can see the fruits of your labor come to life very quickly, and all the little details on your model will start to come to life. Now, if an area feels like you might need to apply a bit more thinner to it. That's absolutely fine. You can just drop it straight on. But whatever you're putting that thinner onto, it's probably going to clean that surface of anything you put on there. So just be aware, it's probably going to be a bit of give and take. So, all my lights position is actually quite difficult to see where I'm going. There we go. And you can apply it wherever you want. Now remember, this isn't a grime effect. This is just a detail effect. So you don't have to go heavy. You don't have to make it look like it's dirty. All I'm doing is just picking out some of the details. Now this is a tiny little model. This is a 1/100th scale. It's a 15mm tank. I can have a whole load of them in the palm of my hand because they're so small. So you don't want to do everything on it. You don't want to do all the work. Save that for the really big models like the 1/35. Even most 28mm you can do more. Less is more is what I'm trying to say. Also keep it bright and cheerful. The smaller scale, the smaller the model, the lighter you want it. Only a little bit, but even paints that are made for these sorts of models are actually brightened fractionally when they consider the scale that they're being painted onto, because the smaller an item is, the brighter you want that paint to make it look the same or stand out essentially. So bear that in mind. Okay, so basically at the back of a Sherman tank is well, back of most tanks really, is the engine bay, and on the top up here is like a hatch that allows you to get into it, to service it, to do stuff to it. So you've got all these little hatches, and all I'm doing is just pin lining, pin washing. It doesn't even matter if you can't keep a steady hand, and like I am right now, because I'm under a bit of pressure under all the lights and the camera and the live viewers, I'm all over the place. It doesn't matter. Even if this stuff dries, you can come back with thinner or white spirit on the end of a clean brush and you can remove it like it was never there. It's really, really easy. And this is why the argument exists for what is better, acrylics or oils and enamels. Often enamels and oils will win because they're so much easier to use. Once you get past the fear of using chemicals over water and the smells and whatever, they are a vastly superior paint. So why was acrylic made? Because some years ago, probably quite a while ago now, let's say 15-20 years ago, oils and enamel paints etc. were all much grimier. They didn't have a really good range of colours, and acrylics, because of the nature of what they are and how they're made, had some really fantastic colours, and the ranges were wonderful. So acrylics took over, especially in the world of fantasy war games like 40k etc. But in those years, technology has come on something, hasn't it? So now we're seeing a lot of really good colours and product ranges in enamels and oils, and if you're looking to expand your palette, so to speak, excuse the pun, it is intended, then I really do recommend that you go and try out some of these enamel washes just as an introduction, if you like, because they're fantastic to play around with. Now I've noticed that we've got some comments going in there. I'm just going to finish off this little light housing here, and I'm going to have a little read. What have we got in here? Adrian, as an aside, in order to save your arms whilst shaking paint, invest in a cheap nail varnish shaker. Yeah, absolutely. Anything like that. You don't want to be using drills and things like that unless you've got a little shaker device on the end of it, because you're just going to get centrifugal force and you're going to separate the liquid from its pigment. But you can get like nail varnish shakers where you just kind of push it on top and a little button pushes down and it just vibrates it to death. You can get some really expensive ones, or you can just save some money and buy exactly the same product for about 1/5 of the price. So yeah, nail varnish shakers, you're absolutely right, and it is worth investing in them. I've been spending my money on other products, but I do want to get one because a lot of my products do settle because I've got so many different projects. Like everybody, I'm sure. I stopped doing my tanks for a little while. I go do all my Tyranids, my Space Marines, and I realised it's been like 3 months before I've done anything with the enamels, and they've all settled. And to be frank, they only take a couple of minutes to settle. There we go. So already, I just hold him at a slight angle here so you can see against the lights. You can see it looks a little bit messy just down here where the tools are. It's not that bad. They do fade ever so slightly, so when they're wet they're quite stark, but when they start to dry they fade off a little bit and it makes it look a little bit tidier, and then you're left with just the effects of these really wonderful defined lines. So I'm just going to carry on basically. Today, I say it's going to be a bit more chilled. We don't have Kyle with us right now. Hopefully we'll have him as the evening goes on. So I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to work away, talk you through it as I go. And if you've got any questions, please shoot away. I'm just going to pop. I've probably chucked quite a bit of enamel thinner on the top there. But let's see what happens. Let's see the difference, I suppose, between a soaked area and a damp area. Is what I did earlier. Oh, you stay still. Stay there. My little brush is all running away. I'm trying to get everything quite close, so I have to keep moving around all over the place and trying to keep in shot. It's very difficult. So I'm just going to go around the outside of this turret ring here. Yeah, because I've got quite a bit of enamel thinner on there now, it's not really as easy to control because the enamel thinner is taking it everywhere. That's okay, I can neaten it up in a minute. It's good to get things wrong. I don't worry about getting things wrong. You have to kind of throw those shackles off very early when you start doing live stream broadcasts, I've noticed. Because things do go wrong. Talking of things going wrong, about an hour ago I had a Windows update, and like a fool I said yes. Just never do Windows updates. So ever since I've been live streaming, every Windows update I've ever had has just stopped my broadcast software from working. Just straight up, it just never loads, just in a perpetual cycle of loading in a minute. So yeah, like a fool, I was painting the M3 Lee. I was like, oh, we got an update. I'll get that done now to save any problems later, I said to myself. 20 minutes before we went live, I had to restore to a previous version, and I got everything working again. Oh, my days. So yeah, get things wrong, right? Even though we don't really see very much around the inside of this turret ring, I'm going to do it anyway, because it's a couple of seconds out of my life, and I might as well get it, because you never know. Now I'm being really messy in here, but that's okay. I'm going to add a bit of thinner to it, because it's kind of drying a little bit on the palette there. Oh yeah, that's much better. There we go. You can kind of just let it run around. Yeah. That's probably looking quite messy. We're not going to really see it in there very much because the turret is going to cover it over, but on the off chance that you do see it, you can see that I've paid a little bit of attention to it. Now all the time I'm just aware that this is a really tiny model, and if I'm taking forever then I need to kind of reassess. Set yourself a time limit perhaps. I know that there's quite a few modelers and makers out there that go, I'm going to do this project within an hour, and if it's not done within an hour, it's done. You know, that's the way it is. Unless it's a simple case of doing something very, very small and quick. Because these are models, though I love them, and though I really enjoy the games that I play with them, they're not my primary thing. And they're so tiny that I don't want to spend, it's where I draw the line, where I make that sacrifice with all my other projects going. I don't want to spend a week just doing a particular thing on this tiny little model. I've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and another 5 boxes down there. I don't want to spend all that time doing this tiny little model. So don't fret. Right, I need a bit more thinner there. This time I'm going to make sure that I don't put it on so heavy. So I just press it out of my brush a little bit, dab it gently on my cloth, and now I can just apply this kind of thin layer of thinner. You don't have to do this thin layer, it just means it's a little bit easier to manipulate because it's going onto a surface that's kind of primed and ready for it. I'm using my dirty bit of thinner water here, or thinner cleaner, whatever you want to call it now, to reactivate the stuff that's drying over here, because it's the same colour at the moment, it doesn't really matter. There we go. And as I drop it in there, you can see it running away. And it's absolutely wonderful. Oh, I just made a massive splodge straight in the side. Look at that. So this little detail here is a boilerplate essentially that is just welded onto the side, because this is right where the driver would sit. So on the side armour, which we know that the Shermans are generally weak armoured anyway, they would stick a boilerplate on the side just for that added bit of protection. And you would find them on both sides. And then on this side here you can see there's a second one where the loader would sit over there as well, just because they're right up against it. There's also ammunition stored all the way through this tank, so crews would put whatever they can, which is why you see those really really like famous photos of all the Shermans where they just got so much stuff. So Fury, in the film Fury, just had logs on the side. A lot of people said that that would actually snag rounds and just help the armor penetration value of the shell that's hitting it, but it made the guys inside feel safer, so they were allowed to do whatever they wanted. And on the Sherman Firefly, you can see here that they got a wheel, a spare wheel for the bogey sets, which they carried in case they got one damaged. They also then replace it with, but until they use it, it is right beside the driver there as an added bit of extra protection. Would it have really afforded that much protection? Who knows? But as a famous US general said, it's so famous I can't remember who it is, so I'm not gonna lie and tell you it was someone it's not. They said if it makes his boys in the tank feel safer, then they can put whatever they want on their tanks. Someone will come up in the comments a minute and go, it was this person. So famous, I can't remember who it is. Sorry, famous guy. Sorry. What I'm struggling now with is the amount of pigment that's left in that paint. So I'm just going to get my brush from the water there. I used to kind of put some back in the palette with. I'm just going to I should probably give that a shake. It does kind of crumble a little bit. There are little bits of enamel dust everywhere. They still could potentially have a little bit of paint left on them, so just be careful. Again, consider your environment well. Don't do it on your mum's favourite white chair, if your mum has a favourite white chair. There we go. Let's drop it in there. A couple of dollops of it. Wonderful. And then wash it off. The smell of enamels takes me back to being a kid when I was doing my first Humbrol sets and my first, I got a model plane, I got a model tank, and I'm sure as anything that back then I was the best painter in the world, and I know that I wasn't, but hey, that's where the fancy of it all kind of starts, isn't it? We are already almost an hour in. So I'll have a little interval in a minute. So if you're waiting for a spot in this really hectic conversation I'm having with you to go and have a break or stretch your legs or get some paint water or whatever, then we'll have a little break in just a minute. Wonderful. So that's one side and the kind of back of the top up there done. Again, now I'm just going to get my brush with a little bit of thinner on it. Just a little bit. Push that off the brush. I've wiped streaking grime down my thumb. Wonderful. And again, just going to apply it over the front. I do want a bit more on there actually. Over the tops of the driver hatch and the driver assist hatch there. He was also radio operator in the standard Sherman. Do you know, I don't know what the crew complement was in Sherman Firefly, if it was any different. I know that the British tanks didn't really have much in the way of radio communications, so is there a need to have that assist person there? Maybe, maybe not. I know that in the Sherman Firefly, because the rounds of ammunition were so big, they had considerably less of them. So the standard Sherman variant, 75mm, 76mm, would carry somewhere between 70 to 90 rounds of ammunition. The Sherman Firefly I think could hold about 17, so because they were so darn big. So if you're struggling to get rounds of ammunition in there, you don't have a radio. Do you need a radio operator? Look at that definition really coming out now. It's such a wonderful product. And it works so much better than acrylic based washes or shades. Again, if you've been watching recently, you'll notice the struggles that I've been having with Nuln Oil by Games Workshop or Citadel. I really like their range of colours, but that one colour just keeps on beating me every time. I just can't control where it goes. And if you can't control where it goes, you often want to be able to tidy up afterwards. But the problem with acrylics is that it dries with a tide mark often, and even with an acrylic thinner, it's very hard to manipulate afterwards. But this stuff, I could come back in a week and I would be able to clean it all up. It's wonderful. But that does mean if I'm going to be doing grime effects afterwards, then I need to seal it. Because otherwise, when I go over and I do that wiping technique that I was telling you about a minute ago, I'll just end up wiping off everything that I've done on here. So I need to make sure that everything is in the right place or tidied up and as I want it, and then I will seal it. If you've had any experience with enamels and oils and other spirit-based paints and effects and things, let us know. Adrian says, sounds something like what Patton would say. Maybe it was Patton. I want to say, yeah, that sounds right, but of course, in the Second World War, he was a big name, so I could just be pulling that one out. I just don't know. I forget. I read it and I've heard it loads of times, but I can't recall accurately. And I'm not in the habit of deliberately calling out false information, unless it is about the mouse. I'm really sorry about that. See, another thing that the Sherman was really good for was its just ability to engineer and repair on the road. This panel here on the front is just a way of getting into the trans drive, the transmission that drives the two front wheels here, that runs all the way down the length of the underside into the engine. If you wanted to do that on a Panther, it's going to take you a week. You want to do it on a Sherman, a couple of hours with a good crew in the safety, just because you would just take this front piece off and off you go. Now, I'm kind of rushing this a little bit because this is a show, we want to see stuff happening, even though it's all about getting your stuff done. We want to see some stuff happen. So I'm trying to rush it a little bit so that I can seal it, hopefully by the break, and then before the end of the show you should at least be able to see a little bit of the grime effects on there as well. So you don't have to be as fast or as messy as I am. I'm going to clean this up in a minute ever so quickly, but it's small. It will actually add to the grime effect on it. So I'm not overly fussed. I'll neaten up a little bit, seal it, and then yeah, I'm gonna do some grime effects. But you know, if you're one of those people that really wants to take your time, yeah, take your time, whatever. We've got more comments going in. Jeff Lacey says, when I was figure painting years ago, I used Humbrol paints. Then I discovered acrylic paints. Oh my, the color range was amazing. Yeah, there you go. You see, that is the race between the two. I use different things for different projects. I use almost exclusively acrylic products for fantasy style games like 40k, just because I like to. I suppose probably because of the connection of Citadel to Games Workshop, and those bells have just rang ever since. But yeah, it's just go with what you're comfortable with, right? If you have no interest in using a product that you've never used before and you're happy with what you've got, why stretch it out? It's only there if you want to kind of experiment, right? That's all it's there for. I don't necessarily say that there's any kind of improvement in your skills per se that you would get by changing those products. Maybe you will, because I say the range that AK do, for example, on all their different weathering and grime and things like that. I think just the range that's available there for people would probably be quite appealing, and you might be able to develop, if you like, as a painter. He said the Germans would call the Sherman a Tommy cooker or a Ronson after their lighters, as it would light first time. Yeah, because of the armor penetration that German guns had, and the thickness generally of the armor of the Allied vehicles would be such that the Germans would generally set fire or destroy their targets on the first go. Yeah, Tommy cookers is a name I've heard a lot when researching about Shermans. But interestingly, because I'm fascinated by tanks and their effect that they had in the conflicts, I was doing a little bit of research. This is where I found out about the mega tank that I was talking about earlier. I saw an article about the super pattern. My, that was a big tank, and this is probably just because I'm not very well educated, I suppose. But I didn't realise that such advanced tanks were in during the Second World War as early as they were. I thought that they were very, very late war, but like the Pershing and the Super Pershing, they were coming out sort of mid-late war. And there are stories apparently of them engaging King Tigers and having these epic duels, etc. Big tank versus big tank. Apparently there is no evidence to suggest that any such thing ever did happen, and that in most cases where we hear or see reported stories of epic tank battles occurring between epic sized tanks like the Super Pershing, I think I may have called it a Super Pattern a minute ago, but it's called the Super Pershing versus the King 2, Tiger 2. It never happened, and they probably think that because it just sounds a little bit sexier when you're trying to make a story of, when you're the victor and you go and take out a Panzer IV, which is what a lot of historians seem to think was the case. When you're in a really big tank, you probably want it to sound cooler. So you go, yeah, we were in our Super Pershing, and then we went up against a King Tiger, and yeah, we took 3 shots and we survived, and we gave out as many. And we won. Yahoo! But such is the effects of war. Okay, I am pretty much done on the hull. I'm just going to kind of let that set for a little bit now. I'm not going to worry about the underside. In any of the games that I've played with these little 15mm tanks, they never really get turned upside down. I'm not even going to waste my time. Is that really what I want to say? Yeah, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm going to put a little bit in the bogies. I've just realised I've not done anything in there. But unless you're doing it for your own sake, like maybe you're doing a big build, like I've got a 135th Panther on the go. If you're doing something big like that, maybe for peace of mind for yourself, you want to go, yeah, do you know what, I'm going to do all the little bits that you're not going to see because it's my project, man, that's what I want to do, then so be it. But on these little ones, you don't worry. Oh, he says, but of course, your model, do as you will. I just love seeing it all come together. There's just a simple dab, a simple drop. You just plop it in there, and that detail, like in those wheels there now. And I know it doesn't look as good on your end when you're watching it, but right in front of my eyes now, it just comes alive, and it's really cool, and it's why I do it. It's why I like all this. You see how detailed these fantastic little kits are. I say this particular one that I'm doing now isn't a Zvezda model. This is one of the range from tanks, which I love. And you can just buy so many of them for such an affordable price. I don't know what the going conversion rate is at the moment, so I'm not going to hit you with what they are in equivalent in the US, etc. For any of our US watchers. because I know that we have quite a few at the moment. We go as far back as California currently, which is lovely, and we've also got some viewers and supporters in Australia. I don't know what the conversions are, but if you are interested in getting some of these tanks, then it's not Flames of War, but it is Gale Force 9, I believe, is the manufacturer. The game is simply called Tanks, but it is the models that are used from Flames of War. You can buy sets for the actual models themselves cost anywhere from £6 to £8 for a particular tank, depending on what size tank you're buying. The little Shermans are about £6-7, and things like the Tigers and things like that are about £8, yeah, £7-8, depending on where you buy them from. Who can't afford that, right? If you want to get a little Tiger tank, go for it, go crazy. Yeah, and I bought a set. I bought a starter set, which gives you 2 Shermans and a Panther, a rule book, which is a small rule book to be fair, because it's just tiny little tanks, right? Gives you a couple of scenarios, some counters, and some pop-out cardboard terrain, which is all you need to get started. And it was about 16 quid. So yeah, why not? I thought to myself when I was at the Plymouth War Games convention, why not go home with something and started a new hobby. Zvezda tanks go for about £5, says Adrian Dean. Wicked! I've not bought any Zvezda tanks because my dad keeps on buying them for me. Thanks very much, Dad. Miss you too, man. You also recently bought my partner a Panzer 38 because, you know, I spend all my time doing little models. I don't know if she has any interest in painting models, but ever since he's bought a little Panzer 38, she's named it. She's saying that she's not going to paint it the proper colour. She's going to do whatever she wants to it, man. Yeah, she's sold. So thanks, Dad. Cheers for that. Right, I need just a small amount more of this. Let's consider moving to an intermission. During the intermission, I will still be here. I'm going to be cracking on here. I've got a cup of tea. I've got my glass of wine on the side. I like to have in the second half. And yeah, as you can see, Skype is open waiting for Kyle. We might have Kyle with us in the second half. We might not, but I've been told that he really wants to get here. He's trying his best, but I'm not holding out for him. I'm just keeping the airwaves open. I'm going to carry on painting this, what we've been doing. I'm going to get the turret done. It shouldn't take me too long, I hope. So yeah, if you need to have a break, now's the time to go and do it. If you need to go stretch your legs, refocus your eyes, grab a fresh drink, or change your paint water, which you should definitely do, then you can go and do that now. And I'll see you back here. Oh, there he is there. Kyle. Kyle's in there. Good evening, everyone. Hey, Kyle. I was just about to leave you. You guys spotted him before I did. I made it. Nice to see you, Kyle. I hope you're doing well. During this jazzy intermission, I will get Kyle on the line and we'll pick up the conversation in just a minute. He's here, says Stafford. Excellent. Look at all the comments, Danny. Yeah, I know, right? It's been really chatty. Chilled out, Kyle. It's chilled out, but it's been really chatty and we're having a really good evening. I'll catch you just a minute, and the rest of you stay right there or go and change your paint water, whatever you need to do. I'll see you in just a few minutes. Cheers, then. back! I didn't go anywhere. I've been here. You know what I've been doing. I've been finishing off my tank and I've been sorting out a call with Kyle. I hope you had a good break. I don't know what you were doing, but I hope it was good. Of course, with me today, here he is. It's Kyle. Say hi, Kyle.
Hi everyone, I made it.
He made it, and mate, it's so
nice
good to have you back.
Yeah.
It's nice to have a little bit of change of pace occasionally. It's nice to have that pace in the show where it's just me and just talking, and so it doesn't have to be the same every week. But I miss you, man, and I hope you're feeling all right. I hope your evening's gone well.
Thank you. I was just nice to be here. Got everything set up ready. Get a bit of painting done. Even though it's only half my normal hobby time, it's still some hobby time.
It's still hobby time, absolutely. Yeah, of course. So a little bit of a recap, because you haven't been watching the show live till this moment here. We've been talking about weathering products. I showed the whole range of stuff that I got, talked about all the different things that are there. So, you know, is it enamel-based products and acrylics and things like that, and I've just basically got loads of enamel products because I love all the range from AK Interactive. So I talked a lot about that. I've talked about how you apply it, and then I've just basically been applying washes very much in the same way that we do with sort of Games Workshop washes, is the shades, be it Nuln Oil or Agrax Earth shade or the sepia or whatever, the exact same thing, but I've been applying it accurately, semi-accurately, using like pin lining or pin washing. I've not been very accurate because on this model it doesn't really matter. It's so small, all the details when I do griming, it's just going to kind of add in. I did do a little bit of neatening up a minute ago because I did go crazy with one effect. I'm just at the point now where I'm going to apply a satin varnish to it to seal it, because I don't want to ruin what I've done in a minute, because you have to go over with different thinners and things to kind of get the effects, and if I start washing that away, I'll just undone the last half an hour's worth of work. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to prep the airbrush now, get a little bit of satin varnish in there, and I thought that you could talk to everyone about what it is that you're doing, because today you were going to be doing your T34, but obviously half hobby time, you've got some other projects. Before you say that though, Darren Venenembus says, "Hi, I'm a bit late too. Nice to come and join us, man. The viewer count's going through the roof. It's absolutely brilliant. I'm really happy that everyone's made it. If you are new here and you're just tuning in, or you've forgotten or whatever, then you can find us on all our various platforms, which you should be able to see on your screen now. We've got YouTube, Easy8, nice and easy to find because you're already watching us, hopefully. We've got Easy8 Painting Club at Facebook, and we've also got Easy8 OPC for Online Painting Club over at Instagram. So you can find us on all three platforms. Please do subscribe on the YouTube channel here. Please do like and follow us on Facebook. Every little bit helps this community grow, and we do it all for you and the love that we have of everything that we do. So, yes, enough about that. Kyle, if you wanted, I don't know, to talk to everybody about what it is that you are doing.
Yeah, so I reviewed my paints with regards to my T34, and I just wasn't quite happy that I had the right paints to do it justice.
Sure.
I kind of came to that realization a touch too late in the week to get it ordered in due to my shocking organisation. That is pretty famous. So we've had that chat already about giving me a shout of where to look, because I want to, number one, I want to do tank justice, and painting it sort of like realistically is very different to the kind of colours that I've got and I'm used to doing. And it was a nice, we talked about this I think last week, it's a nice branch to go into a different type of paint.
Yeah. It's a great opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah, so we'll have that chat and I'll get them ordered this week. And also we're coming in, this is half term now, so I've got a week where I can actually get a little bit more hobbying done as well, hopefully this week, and be in a bit of a stronger position to tackle that tank next week.
You've not got any half-term work to be doing?
Oh, I've got loads of half-term work to do, but it's a lot less than term work, so it's... got to take a little
bit of time for yourself, right? You've got to have that hobby time, of course you have.
Yeah, a bit of me time.
Can't be all work and no play.
Exactly, or just no work and stress out at the end, which is what I'm more used to doing.
Shall we call that the Kyle effect from now on?
Yeah, we'll call that the Kyle effect. But we're getting there. That's the main thing. So I thought this evening I've got a few little jobs to do just on a couple models that I've been painting recently. I painted some helmets the wrong colour, which are not, so they're Blood Angels.
Was that
lore.
right? That was right back at the beginning of all your painting, wasn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. And now I've got a great collection of brushes that have been very nicely donated by Jeff. I'm going to use that to go back and make some blue helmets on people with big weapons, because that's what they're meant to have. That's
excellent.
And then family friendly. And then I am going to just finish off a little bit more red and orange on the assault intercessors. They just need a little bit more, because again, my light, although I seem to have cracked my lighting solution a little bit more today, I've noticed that they just need another layer just to be a little bit brighter than they were. So I thought that was quite a nice thing to do in the hour. You've
got quite a bit of light coming at your face there. Is that just your laptop where you're sat, or is that another light that you've got?
That is another. Well, it's a light that I've managed to reposition to be even closer by changing where I am and how I can set up. I've managed to get that a lot closer. So that seems to be working quite nicely.
Nice. Oh, that's good, because the position that you're in, unfortunately, the viewers can't see it because of the way that the screens are all laid out, but you're in a bit more of a botanical area of your usual room here today. Yeah, look at all those plants there. Look at that. It's really nice. Yes. Nice position, well lit, but not very comfortable, I understand.
No, but that's all right. It's all right. I can live with that. I can get through a bit of pain. And then I thought the other thing, which is obviously my favourite thing to do anyway, is just to get to have a chat with everyone. See what people are painting this evening.
Got quite a chatty group tonight.
Lovely.
Yeah. You might notice, if you have a look through the live chat there, you might notice some old faces or old names from episodes and episodes ago. Obviously, we've got our regular viewers in there, and everyone's being quite chatty. I do know that is one of the things that myself and viewers have told me about, that when we're not doing things that are mainstream popular, like any of the Games Workshop stuff, we do a lot of 40k. We go into do something different, like Second World War or tanks and things like that, that we seem to lose a little bit of the viewer count. That's fine. That's normal. This show's for everybody. You don't have to be into one particular thing. You don't even have to do miniature painting. It could just be whatever you want to do. Perhaps you just like to join in with the chat. That's fine. That's cool. This place is about coming together as it would be a painting club in your village hall or whatever it would be. So yeah, if tanks aren't for you, that's cool. We are going to return to 40k probably next week, and then we'll look at revisiting tanks and other effects later on. And if you want us to do anything special, then tell us.
Yeah, Danny's painting tanks, but he's not forcing you to.
Yeah,
that's the idea.
Yeah, no, it was actually a request this time around. Was like, hey, paint tanks. Like, yeah, cool. Would love to.
Definitely, and it is nice to have that change as well. Like, I'm genuinely really looking forward to doing mine. It's a different paint style and it's a different miniature style as well. That difference in scale, bringing some slightly different, if not some different skills, just some slightly different application to them. So, no, I'm really looking forward to painting my tank. I've just been all over the place, sorting my life out.
Yeah. I mean, life's important, right? Because you've got to have one to be a hobbyist.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that, but I'm sure you can make up your own idea. Yeah, cool. So look, I'm just waiting now for this satin varnish to dry. Like I say, I'm just kind of locking in the effort that I've done. What it has done is brightened up the model a little bit. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because it's been a bit more reflective, I suppose. But it has enhanced the job I've just done with the wash, which is lovely because it looks really good and ultra defined now. And it's a small tank. It's at 100 scale, so less is more. I'm not going to go crazy with it, but I'm going to hit up with some different products, and I'm going to talk about those in a minute. But I'm just waiting for the turret to dry a little bit so I can just turn it over and do the end of the cannon. There we go. Lovely. And I've just got a little bit left in the hopper, so I'm just going to spray over the main hull there. Excellent. I'm desperately trying to not mix up my different products because I've got enamels on the go and I've got acrylics. And I've got different brushes all doing different things, and I don't want to be mixing stuff up. Anyway, yeah, cool. So, right, that's done. I'm going to wait for that to dry.
Nice. Something I've realised I've fallen prey to, that's a strong way of saying it, but one of the issues I've realised with my own painting is, because I don't have much experience of sort of trial and error within my own ability, I've done a lot of sort of tutorial watching and trying from there, is I've gone out and always bought every colour I need to do something.
Yeah. Rather
than sort of making my own shades and tones and things from the colours I've got. So that is what I'm doing this evening. I've just got the base colour that I'm doing, and I'm going to just lighten and darken it as I need it, because it's only going to be for dry brushes and highlights, so it doesn't matter.
You can make your own washes and your own effects with anything, and some people prefer that. A little while ago, my dad Jeff was talking to us in the live chat about 3 or 4 weeks ago about who makes their own, that blends their own colours and whatever, and I find that very dangerous territory for myself, but some people prefer it. If you are using acrylics, like perhaps you're using the Vallejo range, which is very popular, or the Citadel range, and you want to make your own washes, then you can get medium, which is that's just what it's called, just painting medium or medium, artist medium. Citadel call it Lamium medium. I do have some of it, but it's in the other studio, but if you know what I'm talking about, you've seen it. The other studio is my living room. But basically you would apply a ratio of that to your paint, and it just kind of waters it down without watering it down, and uses in inverted commas. If you add water to acrylic paint, what it does is it plays around with the surface tension, and it will break it down, and when it dries you are likely going to end up with a tide mark around the area. That is a trademark effect that you will get from acrylics, which is why people prefer to use oils or enamels. If you use Lamium medium or any kind of medium, it affects the surface tension in a different way, and it turns it into a more blended, diluted version of that paint, so you can do glazes and things like that with it, and I've had a lot of success with it when I was doing like acid pool effects, etc. But yeah, so you can apply that, and if you obviously like did 90% medium to 10% paint, you could start getting into the realms of shades and washes, and you could do all sorts with it. But again, water has its place, so I've watered down paints to get effects out of them all the time. Yeah. So what is Jeff saying? Darren's furthered by saying tanks, my favourite. Yeah, I know, man. That's why we're here doing it, because you're one of the people that requested tanks. Jeff, my dad has put, I'm sculpting a medieval tent and drinking vodka. Might not be a good idea, but it seems to be working. Yeah. Cool.
It's all about creative process.
It is. In the second half, I like to always have a glass of red or a beer or something, because it's the weekend now, right? Yeah. Kyle, your trademark thing you like to say.
I've said it. I've said it.
Have you?
I want to see. Yeah. I want to see what people are painting. What they up to tonight. What they hobbying. Or even if you don't have the chance to, hopefully you're kind of planning what you're going to do next, even if you don't have the time or the chance to paint right now. What's on your list? What's coming up? What is
occurring?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Just waiting for that last little bit of satin varnish to dry, and what I thought I would do in the meantime is I would show you, Kyle, some wonderful results of a technique with a special paint that you requested a little while ago.
Yes.
I'll take you over to my workbench, where I do actually have to include you to it because you are currently not on there. Bear with me.
Seamless.
There he is. Seamless effect. There it is. So on your screen in just a second, Carl, because obviously you are still working on the delay like everybody else, you are going to see my attempt at a lava base. I'm really happy with it. More comments going in. Staff has put, planning on some Blood Angels Primaris once I get the painting station sorted.
Yes.
A painting station.
Yes.
And Darren's put in there, are you not going to apply varnish to stop decals slivering first, then varnish over it again before weathering? Thinners will pick. Yeah, they pick up decals. You're right, absolutely right. You should do your paint job, apply your decals, then protect it, then do your wash, protect it, and then do your weathering. I just don't have any decals for this particular tank. So on my American Shermans, I have some little decals on the side, C19. I didn't worry about doing do I do this before the weathering effects? They haven't been weathered, they've just had their pin line washing done on them. You can still see that it's a little bit shiny on the decal, but those are the only decals that I've got at this scale. I am shopping around and looking for them. There are so many different things that I need to get, be it for my life and house, etc., for the show, doing research and whatever, that I just haven't had the time to get them. But I'm not overly fussed because the games I play with them are so small, etc. But yes, yeah, you're right. You should do your decals before you start all the weathering effects in and seal them in. Doing decals is a topic for a whole evening in itself, and I was thinking about that earlier. I will touch that subject later on. Yes, back to what Stafford was saying about. Yeah. Stafford was saying about his painting station. I would love to see that. If you could get some photographs of before, after, the during process, if you have to make it or whatever, get him over there on the Facebook page. You should go to the community tab, take some photos. I'd love to see it. Inspiration for all and motivation for some people that might be thinking the same. That'd be great. Lucas put, always here with the Sisters of Battle. Yeah, nice. Mellabrook, I say that our viewer count is going through the roof. Today is continuing with the ever infinite sundries to finish my small bikes and big bikes. And then Darren's just clarifying what he meant. Yep, cool, brilliant, wicked.
Great
so yeah, my little lava base here, Kyle. You can see it now, I suppose, can't you?
Yes,
yeah. I did gloss it because I thought maybe gloss might help it, because I call it myself like a water effect, if you like. I don't know if it looks better with or without. There are photos on the Instagram account where you can see it. I did put them to the Facebook page earlier on, so if you want to see them over there, you can. But what I was working with is I worked with the 3 fluorescent colours that I got from Green Stuff World. I'll just reach over and grab them now. I did want a yellow one, but I ended up with, because it was just an incorrect delivery, which isn't a big problem. I wanted a yellow, an orange and a red, but what I got was a red, an orange and an orange yellow. But I thought, well, that's fine, because that just adds into the gradient. I will get a yellow. I use one of my own yellows instead in the end. The reason I want to use fluorescent colours is because they're just bright, and I thought that would just add to the kind of fake light effect that lava will give you. And the blends came out really, really smooth. But just to finish it off, I did put a little slither of yellow paint down the middle, which is just from the Vallejo game range. And I did a little bit of blood red around the outsides, just a little bit, just to kind of give that graduation of colour effect. And it looks absolutely wicked. But something that I hadn't thought about, this is just a wonderful side effect. UV torch, ladies and gentlemen. Wait for it. Wait for it. Yeah, it lights up. If I just knock off my studio lights here so that you can get a little taste of this, it lights up like a heat effect. Unfortunately, my camera's not picking it up the best, but it glows in the dark in the colours that is in it. It's a little bit neon because it's fluorescent, but it just adds that little cool effect. And I did notice that if you've kind of got your lights on normal and you just kind of shine it in there, it just makes this like kind of glow effect. I mean, you always have to shine a light on it, so it's not really a practical effect, I suppose. But yeah, what a wonderful little side effect that was. I didn't even think about it. So yeah, I'm going to be playing around with some more effects of that. I've got some MDF strip over there that I'm going to cut up into shapes. I'm going to apply some rock effects, because I was talking to Luke just earlier on today on Instagram about, you know, just open critique about it, and he was like, yeah, put some rocks and things around it and kind of shape it up a little bit. I'm like, yeah, I hadn't thought of that. So yeah, I've got some cork rocks, but hey, lava base.
To see it underneath Crackle. Like,
yes, yeah.
Manage one sort of big sort of central crack or something and have that would be fantastic.
Be wicked. It does look a little bit like the Eye of Sauron, I realised. So maybe I could do some like really cool reptilian eyes with it. But yeah, that was just something I wanted to bring up because I thought that was a pretty good success. Anyway, back over to my Sherman Firefly. So, I'm not in shot. Let me push it up a little bit there. There we go. I can actually change the pan of that. Let me just bring that down a little bit. Where am I? Which way? This way? Not that way. No. Is it working?
I mean,
there it is. There it is. I got it. That took a little bit of dexterity. So I have sealed this paint job with varnish, satin varnish. It doesn't really matter if it's an acrylic one, if it's an enamel one, whatever. Once the paint work is done underneath, you can mix your different types. Not mix them, but you can apply acrylic over enamel, etc. In fact, it's better because they don't react with each other. it's a little bit messy in some spots. So just around the driver's hatch here, it's a little bit blotchy. That doesn't really matter. It's all, at this scale, it'll all just kind of blend in. So I'm now going to move over to streaking grime. At this scale, I like I said, I keep saying it, I don't go mental with all the different types, but if I'm doing a big scale thing, even 28mm, I do mixtures of all of these rust effects, streaking grimes and whatever, but I'm just going to basically play around with them as I go. I'm going to start with my streaking grime because it's going to add a lot of texture and flavour to this tank, and then I'll probably play around with a little bit of rust, and I'll just add little flares of colour here and there. But just trying to be very careful because I still have a palette full of thinner on the side over here. There we go. This is now where I definitely need to make sure I've got that divide. I've got my dirty one, which I use for washing my brushes off in, and I've got my clear one, which I will use for applying to the vehicle. This is why you need to seal it, because we're going to do exactly what we did a minute ago by applying a thin layer over the top, which would wipe it off if I hadn't sealed it. And then I'm going to apply it, and I'm going to streak down. And I will wet my whistle. There we go.
This is something, obviously, I've never done any weathering. So
I haven't done anything like this with my Tyranids since I've learned to do this effect. I want them to be quite bright, not cheerful, but I want them to be, in your face kind of colours. And acrylics are a really good way to go with that. There are some problems that I've experienced with it. We spoke about those over the last couple of weeks. But I am gonna, when I do my Space Marines, I am going to revisit them with the same effects that I apply to my Second World War stuff here. I was actually painting a Marine a little while ago in the American olive drab colours because I do a very similar colour scheme, and it works. But I am going to go back to my old colour scheme for it. But I'm going to use all the streaking grimes and rust effects on them because, like you said, that kind of grim, dark appearance that you want, I'm just going to do it in a different way. Yeah. Excuse me.
It's something I want to do with the few guard I've got. Astra Militarum. We're going to give him a new name.
Don't say that. Adrian's online. He's going to come back at you for that one, mate.
It does feel weird calling them Imperial Guard with the historical connotations, but
yeah, fair.
Yeah, I've got a few units, and I've always loved them. The models, as old as they are, and I've got some. In fact, I've got a bag of sandbags from Jeff that are going to be going into the basin of my heavy weapons units.
He's given you a lot of stuff, hasn't he?
Oh, he's providing me about 50% of my hobby materials. Which is,
cheers, Jeff.
I should start wearing one of his shirts around with some free advertising or something, I think, at this point. But yeah, I only got them for the modelling side of things. That was kind of my push into trying to get myself into the making and painting and converting side of it a bit more. Because I find it quite hard with Space Marines to do that. It's more just a little bit of a kit bash. It's about all you end up doing with the Space Marine armies, or I do anyway.
Yeah. A kit bashing and converting again is whole topic, isn't it? There's a whole separate thing. Yeah. If you are into, kit bashing, converting, just making stuff. I know some people just prefer to make them. That's why they got grey armies that they need to paint. I'd love to know if you're into that, because that's something that we can tackle as a separate thing or just talk about, whatever. Right. Okay. More comments going in there.
Exactly what we thought there.
Darren's put message retracted. Uh-oh, he said something. Astra Miller, what now? You're in the guard, son. Yeah, I told you you'd get Adrian flared up, didn't I?
And then that just automatically, it's like what we talked about in our very first episode, but like that just reminds me of Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Put your hand there, son.
Put your hand on that wall. I apologise to anyone who may actually have that as a native accent that I just completely destroyed. I apologise. Stafford's put, I love the kit bashing and converting. It's the painting I hate. Well, this is a painting club. Come along, paint your stuff and we'll help you through it.
Yeah, it's exactly where I've come from though. I've always enjoyed sort of trying to build interesting models, and I get to the painting bit and I'm like, I'll get round to that and I'll start the next one. The next army, and then I've got just grey or just spray painted armies. So this is what we're here for. The fact that I keep getting updates from you playing games against your housemate.
I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah.
Also fueling me to make sure that when the restrictions are lifted, I can put a painted force on the table, which is quite easy for Blood Angels at that scale. Don't get me wrong, it's only a couple of units, but still, that motivation is there. Definitely.
So, let's talk about this grime effect. Obviously, everyone's going to see it at the same time, apart from you, Kyle. They're going to hear you talking about it, and then they're going to hear you on the delay, but it's the best I can do, really. What I am doing is I am now going to be applying this grime effect to the glacis, which is the front sloped armor on a tank, on this Firefly. It is the best place to show it because there's a lot of detail in there and it will look pretty cool, but it's also a nice slope to practice on. Doing it on the top of a tank is quite difficult because you have to try and guess the best route that grime would take, because it's all about like water and grime and grease and kind of bits and pieces where it would move to. So I apply a thin layer of thinner. It can be white spirit. Like I said earlier, I just prefer to use thinner now because it smells better. It doesn't really smell. And then I'm going to get this grime effect, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply it to the area of origin. In this case, it is going to be that top crease that runs across the driver's hatches and the assistant driver hatches, and I'm just going to apply it in blobs and in lines, and it might want to run away with you a little bit. If it does, it's probably because you've either got too much of the effect on your brush, or you have soaked the area that you're applying with too much thinner in the first place. So it's just a case of waiting to evaporate or removing it a little bit. But apply it as liberally or not liberally as you want. Obviously, the more you put on there, the bigger the effect will be, and it's really easy to remove if you mess up. Once you've got it on there, just neaten up your brush a little bit. I like to make sure that I've got a bit of a point on it, especially on such a small model. And now I'm just going to make exaggerated running lines, if you like, so lines where grime and dirt would run away from. So the obvious one is right in the middle here, and I'm just going to kind of splodge it. I might even get a bit more on my brush, and I'm just going to do really neat, as straight vertical lines as I possibly can. And they don't all have to be the same length, shape or size, and you can make them more saturated if you want. The more saturated you make it, the more defined that they will appear. And then you could do different length ones. Obviously, doing this on a larger scale miniature gives you more surface area to practice on, so if you're practicing this, get yourself a bolt action model because they're still quite affordable, but you've got a lot more space on there to practice. I'm also going to put a load around the actual hatches itself, and I'm just going to I'm just covering the front of these hatches, these areas here, because it'll all come away in a minute. It doesn't matter if it dries, so don't panic. If you get yourself in a bit of a tiz, this stuff is so forgiving. And again, just doing a nice streaky grimy layer down. I'm just making sure that I've got pigment in the liquid. That sounds like a daft thing to say, but the pigment will separate a little bit just as it starts to congeal a little bit on the palette. Making sure that I've got loads there, and just thinking about anywhere where grime or grease or just dirt, horrible gross stuff would collect on the front of your tank, and I'm just kind of slapping it on there now. I'm not even really being particularly precise about it whatsoever. And I'm going to do a little bit down the front of the transmission cover there. So this is what we were talking about earlier on, this area that all these little rivets are. I'm going to do a nice line across there. I spat a little bit there, I apologise. Yeah, I know, right? Do a little bit
adding some grime.
Area where it collects along the tops of the track guards, and then just a couple of lines down the front of the transmission cover here. Now, that looks like an utter state. What have you done, Danny? Oh my god. Don't worry, because here comes the really cool bit. I'm going to get myself another brush because I like to have loads on the go for this. It is good to have a thin, flat brush, but whatever you've got, really. Just trying to find the best one. I've got a nice sable brush here that I use for... This was a really cheap brush by Dale Rowney. This one, I got it from a local arts shop a few miles away from here, and it was about £2. It is a beautiful sable brush, and it's just fantastic. And no matter what I do to it, it just doesn't lose its condition. So yeah, wonderful. I'm kind of waiting a little bit for that to dry on here. It will take a little bit. Yeah, so I'm just waiting for that kind of shine to disappear. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to dip this in clean thinner or spirit, this brush. I'm going to remove about 50 to 70% of it by wiping it onto a cloth, and then I'm just going to wipe it down. And wiping it down is going to remove the majority of the product that we've already put on there, but it's going to remove it in the direction that we wipe the brush, and it will smear it, and it is going to instantly transform the surface. And with a little bit of playing around, you can get some really, really wonderful effects. Obviously, if you're going to go over it again with other effects, and you want to seal it every single time you do it. But yeah, that is the general idea. Because I've slapped that on, I have a little drying time to wait for. So, here's some music while you wait. Yeah, cool.
The colours are good. Just put as well. Finds a filter without varnish first before varnish will allow it to soak and blend with the base coats, depending on what look you're wanting, and then decal and varnish, and then weather.
Oh, I don't understand. Please explain. What do you say? He says, I do find a filter without varnish. A filter without varnish? What do you mean by filter without varnish? Oh, are you talking about applying a color filter over the top to help bring the colors together? Is that what we're going on about here? Because that's quite interesting. When I watch tutorials by pros and things on YouTube, one of the things that I often encounter are people talking about filters and things, which I've not done anything with myself. Be interesting to see if I've got that right.
I've just noticed it's a silly little thing and nothing to do at all with painting miniatures, but I've just noticed that I didn't realise I had a picture of me surfing set as my little YouTube comment picture. Look at that.
Oh, check it out.
There it is.
Kyle is a surfer, a pro surfer, I'll have everyone know.
Not even close, but it took me 14 episodes to realise that from commenting in the chat. That's what
14,
that is.
14 episodes, Kyle. Next week will be episode 15, and that's kind of a big step for this channel, because 15 episodes is one of the prerequisites for monetizing the channel. Not that I definitely, absolutely want to turn this into a money-making scheme. It wasn't made for that. If it makes money, it just enhances what we can do with it. We can put money into it to make it better. So that's a really, really good thing. We have to have 1,000 subscribers, of which we have 26, and I consider that brilliant. And we also need to have 4,000 hours of watch time viewed by people. We are cracking on with that, which is a good sign. And we also need to have 15 videos. And I know I've got a couple of other bits and pieces up on the channel, but 15 episodes of Online Painting Club, it just sings success to me. So thanks for everyone being a part of it. It's great to provide this to you. Darren has said yes. Oh, okay, cool. Works with Tamiya paints. Not sure with the other brands. It probably does, because they all pretty much do the same thing. But yeah, that'd be something that I have a play with if I'm going to do the bigger scale stuff. Anyway, this colour has sort of dried on the front of this tank now. I don't want it to dry impossibly, because it'll be a little bit tougher to move. I've now got a little bit of thinner on this brush, and I'm now just going to wipe away and see what it does. And hopefully you'll be able to see. Oh, yes. Because I've applied quite a bit of it, it's being a little bit more stubborn than what I'm used to. So I've had to wipe a couple of times there, but every time you wipe, you're removing a little bit more. So you want to kind of shape it as you're going. So there's a couple of tide marks and things that are a little bit closer to this bolt line here, which I'm struggling to get into focus, but you can see, yeah, that I can just shape it with the edges of my brush. The thinner your brush, the better the effect will be. And tanks were grimy. There's no doubt about it. They were never clean. Only when they rolled off the factory were they crispy, wonderful looking things, and it didn't take long for them to fall into states of disrepair or uncleanliness.
Natural camouflage.
Yeah, it really was. And crews would often do lots of stuff to them anyway. So yeah, don't worry if it looks a bit of a sham. Just try to make it look natural. So it's a little bit of a cluster going on the front there. I'm just trying to tone that down a little bit by removing a lot of the moisture from my brush on a paper towel, and just trying to keep the direction of this wiping technique natural as possible. And again, on this smaller scale, less is more. And now that's looking pretty nice. I like it. It's good. This brush is a little bit big, really, for this one. But, you know, you learn as you go, right?
Making it work.
Absolutely.
I've learned that my lighting setup, for instance, great for the show, terrible for painting.
Is it?
Shocking. The position is just, it blinds me and puts the model into silhouette. Yes! Great combo.
Well, don't worry about the show, man. We're just here really for the conversation. This isn't a tutorial channel. So, you know, you want to make sure that your work is coming out on top, really. You don't want it to be hampering you.
I'll put that on hold for the minute. We've only got 10 minutes. It's nice to just see the weather. And again, it is something new. I'm looking at, because I'll be looking at like a desert scheme coming up where I'm going to want to apply weathering and things like that. So just kind of having a look and seeing how I'd apply it there, really.
Yeah, that's cool. That's come out really well on the front. I'm really happy with that. It does, like Darren's talking about filters, it has affected the kind of colour, the overall colour of this tank. So I'm just now waiting for that to kind of dry a little bit, wiping off quite a lot of the excess moisture in the brush so that when I go back to it, I'm just lightly affecting it, just trying to remove a lot of that filter effect and keeping a lot of that grime in there. But again, sometimes if you've got a good effect, you don't want to remove it, do you? But yeah, that's looking really good. I like it. Yeah, that's cool. Now I'm going to do the same on the sides. It's simple, really. But I'm going to try something a little bit different because I'm very aware of the time, and you know we've only got 10 minutes or so left of the show. So I'm going to go back over to these weathering pencils that I was talking about earlier on. Now these have a grease paint inside them. So you basically draw onto the area that you want it to go on, and then you affect it with a wet brush afterwards. It does say that you affect it with water, and I've watched the tutorial videos made by AK Interactive, who made these pencils, and it says on the back here, to create shadow effects or weathering marks on your model, apply this paint over an acrylic or an enamel base and blend in with a paintbrush moistened with water. However, when I've used these in the past, I've not had the greatest effects with them. I've not had the greatest results, and I've always gone back to what I've just been showing you, which is, as it's starting to dry now, is looking really, really cool. Yes. However, I'm going to give it a go. So I've got this one here. They come sharpened in the box. This one I have sharpened myself, but they are quite soft and fragile, so be careful with it. You do want to keep it to a point if you can. Now, I've applied water to the surfaces that I'm going to be doing it. I've applied thinners to it to try and do it, but I've never tried it dry, so maybe that's where I was going wrong. So again, what I'm going to do, just like I did a minute ago, where I applied it to the point of origin, so in this case it's going to be on the side armour here, all along the top line, where it becomes the top of the tank, I'm going to do this effect, and I'm also going to do it on the tops of these boiler plates that have been welded onto the side here for the protection. We were talking about that earlier. So I'm just going to see, it doesn't really come off very easily. They are soft pencils, but it's not leaving an awful lot of like material there. So I'm having to push quite hard. Now I remember watching the tutorial, and they were really kind of blitzing. They were really going for it. So maybe you have to put in quite a bit of effort on this. So yeah, I can see there's a little bit on there now. Maybe it's just the colour that I've got, the colour on the tank that doesn't really show it off very well. Maybe I need to use or practice on a lighter base.
I've never even heard of pencils for things like this.
These products are actually quite new. When I got these, I actually had to wait, so I did like a pre-order essentially.
Oh, okay.
They're not better than anything else. They just supply lots of different products because it's for your own personal thing, right? Lots of different things achieve the same results, and it's just about having something to have a go with, and creating choice, which we know is the ultimate thing. So I'm going to get.
What I find interesting with products like this as well is somebody will experiment with them and come up with an entirely new way of using that product, and sort of end up with a technique for it and like that. Oh, great idea.
So it says a brush moistened with water. So I'm just going to do exactly the same thing I was doing a minute ago. I don't even know if you can see that line. You can sort of on my screen. I know what appears actual live is a little bit clearer, but yeah, it's not the best. It's actually quite difficult to see under lights. Now I'm just going to use it I'm just not getting the results that I want. It's just a little bit weird. I don't know where. Maybe I've got to water this whole surface down before I can apply it with these pencils. Let's give that a go. It's okay to not be good with something. So I bought them to practice with. I didn't pick them up to go, yes, this will win me. But I can't see it.
Darren's just put in that you get all manner of like powder pigment for different effects.
Yes, I have one here. We were talking about at the beginning of the show. Darren wasn't here then. Got this powder pigment here, which you can use for like dust effects and things. I've used it once on a tank model. I didn't really get a great effect with it, but I think I was just kind of impulse buying everything. I wanted to use everything that I had. There wasn't a place for it on that particular thing. Yeah, this hasn't. I'm just going to kind of wash it away. It washes away pretty easily. I'm just not getting the effects that I'm used to with it, so I'm just going to leave that. I'll come back to that another day. There'll be a time and a place to use those. If you have used these before and you have really good results with them, or bad, let me know how you're getting on with them, because I feel that I can learn something from you there. I don't want to kind of do anything more with those because I'm struggling to use them. It's just kind of a bit of a rubbish show at that point, really, isn't it?
I really find this is a little side note. It's really interesting because I'm here as kind of the new painter, the new person in the hobby, having done only a very little amount kind of before this. But like my learning curve, just from the chats I can have and just talking to people in the comments I get, it's just sort of sped my learning up of just different approaches more than anything. So it's just like now it's a matter of fact. Now I just need time painting to actually sharpen skills, but the actual knowledge is awesome, and I'm really enjoying that side of it. So yeah, again, just absolutely love being a part of the comments and seeing everything come in and sharing the ideas.
One of the reasons I brought the show into reality is because I hear it so much. I don't have anyone to paint with. It's boring painting by yourself. It is. You're right. It's a very social hobby. Obviously, playing the games, you need an opponent to play with, for sure. But that's only a small portion of this hobby. And all of my friends say that we should get together and do some painting. Whether so, I was like, do you know what? The show's got a place, and it's right here. So yeah. Right, now I'm just going to be going back over and doing exactly what I did a minute ago, and just applying this grime effect. It's just so much bolder. Maybe it's just the colour that it is, because it already starts off life as a liquid. I just have a better result.
Darren said try applying thinners to the pencil.
Okay. Next time I'll give that a go. I've got a couple of German tanks here. I've got a King Tiger and I've got a Jagdtiger, whichever you want to call it. And I'm going to do those in the Dunkelgelb colour. So when I get those out, it'll be much easier to see those lighter pencil colours. So yeah, I'll definitely give that a go. And I'll post my results up on the Facebook page, which we spoke about earlier on. If you've got stuff that you want to see, that you want people to see, then stick it up on Facebook page. Just head over to the community tab and post your pictures away. Pictures, videos, questions, whatever it is you've got there. Yeah, it's for you, it's for me, it's for us. It's a community affair, man, so put whatever you want up there, as long as it's relevant and safe. I'm just going to put that because there'll be someone, right?
Yeah, always.
So you can see here, I've just slapped almost comically this product and effect on the side of this tank here, just letting that kind of just dry a little bit. Then I'm going to come back with, I've got so many brushes on the go, loaded with different things, water, thinners, everything. I've got a pot of water on the side that is starting to float with thinner on the surface. I've got a lot of cleaning up to do in a minute. So I was talking about 40k in the game that I played just the other day. I played another game. I started a crusade, Kyle.
No.
Without you. I know. I started it.
Is it really a crusade if I'm not in it? It's just a collection of games, really.
You know it is. You know it is. And oh mate, it started off so well for me. So my Tyranids fought against my regular opponent of the Eldar. It was all going well. Made a good force. Was up against a good force, lots of jet bikes, high maneuverability. I thought I've got to get the first turn. I've got to get the charge. I set up and I was like, I don't know if I want the first turn. But when your advantage lies in taking the first turn, you take the first turn, right? So I took the first turn and I used all of my command points straight away.
Yeah, as you should, especially in these low point games.
I created an additional spore field, so I doubled my amount of spore mines. That just saturated the field with targets. They did a lot of damage, the ones that made it into combat. I charged forwards on my Hormagaunts, which are my close combat specialists, my super fast ones. They're a little bit weak, but they hit hard, and they are tar pits, aren't they? So that they bind everything up and keep you occupied. And I was a little bit outside charge range, so I spent my last command point, because you get one at the beginning of every turn, so I had 4 at that point. I spent my last one on using another stratagem, which was to make them move again for free, and then I charged very aptly into the jet bikes and ate them straight away. Consolidated straight into the bigger jet bike, which is called the Viper, which then peeled away, and then I got wiped.
And then immediately wiped.
And then snipers, man, snipers. Because they can just pick out your warlord straight away, and he had a group of rangers which have all got sniper rifles, and his warlord was a ranger specialist, and just made very, very short work of my army. But yeah, then we did points and stuff at the end. My points actually all got focused into my Hormagaunts, so they got like the man of the match award, if you like. So yeah, I'll keep you posted and see how this tournament or this campaign goes, because I don't think it's going to go very well for me.
Have you started playing the missions yet with primary and secondaries, or are you still just playing?
We played straight into the mission, where we had it was a supply drop, go and get the different crates and things, and we had agendas in there as well.
Nice.
So look at this effect. It has dried partially on the side of my tank. I've got a brush here with a little bit of thinner in it. Just going to apply a little bit more, because it's probably evaporated a little bit. Just dab a little bit of that off onto a cloth, and then again just starting at one end and then just streaking down, and it's just kind of, to start with, because that product has dried, just kind of reanimates it a little bit. It picks up the streaks that I've drawn, and it picks up the line across the top, and it's just going to add in its own.
Just while you're doing that, Danny, Adrian just said be interested to see a winter camo scheme. I thought that's quite an interesting one, because it also tackles the dreaded white painting.
I'm making up my own music here. White camo. This is the product that you are seeing on the screen now, Kyle, in about 12 seconds. This is, I mentioned it right at the beginning, Ammo MIGs washable white camo. The idea is that you would apply this as you would a normal paint, you build it up into areas, and you can apply water. It stays active for a little bit longer, it reacts pleasantly with water, and you can move it around. You apply this with other effects. I've got a Panther in 28mm. It's not the best model in the world, it's solid resin, I don't really like it. It's an ersatz model, so it's a Panther disguised as an M10 tank destroyer. So it's painted up in olive colours, and then I've done some chipping effects with white paint to kind of make that kind of broken down white effect, and then you'll apply that over the top of it to make it look like that it's been reapplied over, however long that tank's been in service for. I've not used it before. I've seen it in action. It's an incredible product, and I'm looking forward to using it.
Darren's up as well. He'll put up a pic of his 88, because that's in winter camo. That'd be really awesome to see.
Yes, please do. Would love to see that. I'd like to get a little bit more content on the Facebook channel that isn't just 40k. Let's get a bit more stuff on there. That is a really nice effect that has just appeared on the side of this tank. I'm waiting for it to come into focus. There it is. I can't quite get it today. It is beautiful. I will also put photos of this up on Facebook. So that you can see them. I know this has been like the longest 2 hours to get the smallest amount of effects going, but weathering is a process, and because this is a small model, so it's quite hard to kind of really showcase a lot on it. But when your little hobby turns into a passion of love, all these extra little details really add just so much more to it. So you can see on the front there's a little bit of grime, streaky grime on the front here. Most of it's kind of worn away now. But yeah, that's looking really good down there. I'm going to attack this a little bit more over the next couple of days, over the weekend, and when he's all done, I'll put what do they call it? Photos on the go. I can't remember what
photos.
Photos, but
work in progress.
That's the fella. I don't know why I struggled there. Like I completely lost it. Yeah, I paint miniatures, me.
2 hours in. 2 hours in.
Yeah, but it's clearly my bedtime. It's not. It's not. yeah, so that's streaking grime effectively, and then you use rust streaks and light rust in very much the same way. Rust streaks is a very bold, dark color of rust that when it kind of gets thinned down, it goes a little bit lighter, as you can see in this picture here. This is a really good effect to combine with the grime effects. You wouldn't apply it all over like you would the grime like we have just been. You would put it in certain areas where perhaps like this little section here. Here, this is like the heaviest bit. I would perhaps put a little bit in there and just kind of add to it to make it look like that little bit there is a bit more worn, or apply it in certain areas where there's like a lot of wear and tear, like around hatches and things like that. And then I've got the light rust, which you just kind of use in spots and areas. The little image here is being used on hinges on a hatch, but I just like it for that bright rust appearance. Like when rust is quite new, it can be quite bright orange, can't it? It's actually separated in there. Give that a bit of a shake, and you can see the actual colour of it there. Very, very almost orangey kind of brown colour. It's really nice. Get some really nice effects with it, but I use that one very, very sparingly. So other models that I've got that I'm going to do a bit of work with over the next few days. Got the King Tiger here, which is a beautiful model. Look at the size difference in these two here. So yeah, got that's the Shema Firefly. Got the King Tiger. It's a lovely model. I don't know if you had the same problem with me, Kyle, but the Zvezda models, sometimes they wouldn't push together all the way. So I do have a couple of like open lines and things down them, like seams and things. At this scale, I wasn't really fussed about it, but yeah, I have a couple of open seams and things.
Yeah, I did. I just had to manipulate it a bit more to to sort of close them up. And I think with a bit of glue as well, just to. The
M3 Lee was the worst one. There were a few lines, but once I painted it, you don't really notice it. To be fair, I've got the Jagdtiger, the hunting tiger. This is a beast. It's just an enormous tank. The gun on this one is supposed to have like a little ball and socket thing in there, and you're supposed to like push them, and it says on the instructions, snap. I could not get that for love nor money to snap into place, so I had to really shave down the ball on the ball and socket, and then I just piped in a load of poly cement, and it stuck eventually. And then I've got the mouse, or the Morse, which is just ridiculously stupid big. Look at the size of that. That's just enormous. It doesn't even fit into frame vertically. Crazy. And then I've also got a couple of Stuarts, which I'm really looking forward to because I love those. I've got German assault gun Stug 3, and I've got a couple of Soviet ones to go as well. Yeah, I'm loving it. And I've got the Ferdinand, the Elephant, which is this big beast, which if you go back later on, Kyle, and see the beginning of this episode, you'll see the error that I made last week that I've corrected during this show. Anyway, that's enough really from me and from us, from this show. It's been a nice chilled evening, but with a lot of activity going in the live chat, which just tells me that we're doing something right. That's really, really good. Let's get away from the workbench here. Cool. Yeah, so just to re-emit before we go, if you like what we do, or even if you don't, just do it. Subscribe, please. It would be really, really helpful to us to make this community and this channel grow. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share it amongst your friends, whether you think they're into the hobby or not. It would really help if you just kind of share and go, hey, I know these guys and they do this show and it's online live every week. Subscribe to it. I know that there are a load of new viewers tonight. I know for a fact that there are, and there'll probably be some more coming back to it in the next couple of days. It's half term next week as well, so maybe if you've got kids and you're spending a bit of time with them, bring them along, invite them into the hobby, or if they're into the hobby anyway, it's just a perfect opportunity to get them in there. I obviously know that this weekend is Valentine's Day, so make sure that you reserve some home time for that. I was going to consider doing a Valentine's special. There's not a lot you can really do about that. Maybe I could bring in the Valentine tank, but I didn't have one. It's very hard to include Valentine's into a special thing, but when I let the channel get bigger, yeah, of course. You can find us on any of the platforms that are being shown to you right now. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We're active on there all the time. But for now, is there anything else, Kyle, that you wanted to say before we disappear?
I'm just glad I made it in for at least some of it.
Excellent.
We didn't get as much done.
It's nice to have you, man. It wasn't the same without you. Cool. Thank you everyone for coming along this evening. It's been great. It wouldn't exist without you, so thank you very much. Like, subscribe, follow, share, and until next week, make sure that you keep on painting your miniatures. Get your grey armies painted. I've been Danny.
and I've been Kyle.
He has been Kyle. Am I going to point? Yeah, I'm pointing the right way. He's been Kyle. And we will see you next week at the same time, same place. Take care for now. Goodbye. Absolutely brilliant, Kyle. Loved it. Glad you made it, mate. Glad you made it.
I'm so happy I made it. I had a bit of a delay, and I was not panicking, but I was getting a little bit down. I was running, but I made it back in time.
Yeah, I love it.
Into it. Yeah.
Wicked.